Hi besties, welcome back to another video of us reading some unhinged romance books. We are here for our annual Christmas tradition. This year we did dark romance. Last year we did monster romance. If you missed that, I'll link that down below. All right, let's just get into it. Okay, I'm gonna go first because your attention span, if I go second, is usually pretty bad.
You're not wrong.
Okay, my book was called Sugar and Sin. So to start off, Christmas no longer exists.
Oh.
Every Christmas Eve, there is a demon that comes upon the earth with his hellions. And they eat all the people, attack all the people on earth every Christmas Eve. And he killed Santa.
Every Christmas Eve.
Yeah, he killed Santa Claus, and now he goes by the name the Saint. And so every year around Christmas time, people stock up on like guns and they like batten down their houses. Very much given like the purge, but like if demons were the ones doing the purge. So like on Christmas Eve, everyone is really scared and they like hide in their houses because the Saint is gonna come and like kill everybody. And so our main character is a girl named Charisse. And for the last 10 years, she's been in the Silent Night Asylum. And so she's been in this asylum for the last 10 years, but she recently escaped. And her biggest mission in life is to kill the men who were evil to her while she was in the asylum, and then also kill the Saint, because the Saint apparently killed her whole family. So she's like, I will hunt him down this Christmas Eve. We're about 2 months out from Christmas when we enter the book.
We live a vengeful female, honestly.
The author was very much going for like Harley Quinn vibes with her like being in an asylum.
As soon as you said asylum, I was like, oh, so like is one side of her hair blue and the other is...
No. She does do something with her hair later in the book.
Green?
No, we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it later. No matter how hard I try, these memories refuse to fade, playing over and over, haunting my every waking hour of every day. And there's only one thing that can soothe me now. Well, 2 things, murder and candy. And she's on her way to a Motel 6, dressed as a woman of the night. She knocks on the door of this random man and he opens. He's like, oh yeah, Charisse, welcome. You look a little different than your picture online. And she's like, shh, it's fine. And then she ties him to the bed and she's like being a little dominatrix moment. As she's on top of him, she has like a masquerade mask on. She takes it off and he's like, what? You're dead. How can this be? And she calls him by his name. And also in the background, she's playing Baby It's Cold Outside, like the Christmas song. Because it's another fun little quirk about her. That's her favorite song. Nobody sings Christmas carols anymore. Like people don't play Christmas music because Christmas is canceled. So it's like very taboo to do anything. Like people don't decorate. Like Christmas is canceled.
Christmas seems very traumatic.
It's very traumatic.
World.
Very traumatic. So she's like
also cancel
on her phone, she's playing Baby It's Cold and she's like singing it and she's like sitting on top of him because he's like tied to the bed and he recognizes her and he's like, oh my God, you're dead. Like, what do you mean? And then
so he killed her.
Maybe, apparently. We don't really know. She escaped from the asylum. We don't really know the backstory at this point. And so he's one of the bad men that like did stuff to her in the asylum.
Okay,
and so
okay.
She hunted him down and then she starts cutting off his fingers and she shoves them in his mouth.
Interesting.
And she's sucking on a lollipop the whole time.
Oh, feels like a choking hazard.
Okay, so then the next chapter, we're in a different POV. It's dual POV. And we have the Saint, who is the demon. His name is Niklaus. Like Saint Nick. He goes by Nick. And so he's like wandering around the streets of Lockwood. He's looking for souls to mark because what he does is leading up to Christmas, him and his little hellish minions go around finding sinners to like mark that he gets their names and he puts them on his little list and he's like, I'm gonna be visiting you on Christmas Eve. And he kind of lets us in on the backstory of why he came to be doing what he's doing on Christmas. In the year 1960, it was very specifically 1960, he was told from Lucifer, Satan, that he needed to start collecting souls on earth. And so he took it upon himself to only do sinners and bad people because he thinks they taste the best, like their souls taste the best. He's like, oh, I just love a little delicious sinner.
They probably get a
so
little
he's kind of like a vigilante, but everyone thinks that he comes to earth and just kills anybody, and that's why everyone's afraid of him. And everybody's like, oh my God, the Saint's coming. But actually, he only kills bad people. But people just don't realize how many people in their lives are bad. Like it's like secret molesters, pedophiles.
One thing about these dark romance books is they always have to give them like
a loophole.
They're killing everyone, but they're bad.
Yeah. So the reason he killed Santa Claus is because little did we all know that Santa was using Christmas as a cover to get into your house and molest children. Him and his elves were pedophiles. So they were breaking into people's homes, literally coming down the chimney, as you said.
Coming down the chimney,
and then kidnapping kids. So he started with Santa Claus as the first person to kill, like the first soul to take. So he went to the North Pole, he killed him, and he took over.
If you think about it hard enough,
it's a little weird.
Is a weird vibe.
Yeah, so that's where the Saint came from. And then he deemed himself the Saint, so he kind of took over. And I guess it's just coincidence that his name is Niklaus. But anyway, so he killed Santa because Santa was like a raging pedophile or whatever. So he's walking around the streets of Lockwood and he's looking for souls to get. And then he sees these 2 men having like this like heated discussion.
What? The devil went down to Georgia. I know it down a lot when he was looking for a cellar steal.
Exactly. So he sees these two men having a heated discussion. They're talking about, like, I thought you killed her. And he's like, she was dead. Like, I don't know. And they're like going back and forth. And then he's like, hello, gentlemen. Who were you guys talking about? Who'd you kill? And they're like, okay, who the fuck are you? Why are you trying to butt in our conversation?
Okay, he's a human right now.
Yeah, he has a glamour on. And I will say his glamour is a hot guy. He asks for the guys' names because, like, hey guys, like, you seem perfect for my little project. What's your name? Because he needs someone's full name in order to mark them to, like, take their soul. So one of the guys is like, no, I won't tell you. But he, like, breaks his wrist. And then he's like, okay, fine, my name's Thomas Branson. And he, like, runs away. The other guy is not scared. He's not even sweating. He's just like, he's like, my name's Will Ashcroft. Nick is like, oh, fuck. Because apparently the Ashcrofts, they're in a cult that worships Satan. So they're protected from him collecting our souls. So because he's in the Ashcroft family.
He's a Nepo baby.
Yeah, he's untouchable. He's untouchable. So he's like, oh, fuck. He's like, I really want to kill that guy, but I can't. So then he, like, leaves and he's wandering down the street and he's passing by the candy shop, which apparently the town is very famous for. He smells the most delicious smell. He says that it smells like sin mixed with purity, and he's never smelled anything like it. Like, he needs to know what it is.
Sin mixed with purity.
Yes, there's an essence of purity to it, but it's very sinful at the same time. So he goes into the candy shop. He's shoving over children. He does not care who he's hurting. The kids are crying. He's like,
fuck them kids.
No, he's literally like, fuck them kids. He goes back and he sees Charisse standing in an aisle and she's, like, gesticulating and talking really animatedly to someone. Yeah. But he sees her and he's like, I must have her. I must own her. And so then he, like, peeks around the aisle to see who she's talking to, and she's actually talking to no one. She's talking to the air. She's
Plot
like,
twist.
She's a little crazy. They really lean into her being crazy in this book. And so he storms up to her and he's like, who are you? What is your name? I must know. And then he starts, like, sniffing her. He's like, ew. And she's like, what? Do I smell good? Because she's kind of crazy, so she doesn't care that he's also crazy.
Yeah.
So he's smelling her and she starts giggling and she's, like, sucking a lollipop and she's like, oh, do you think I smell good? And he's like, who the fuck were you talking to? And she's like, my friend.
The voices.
She tells him that her name is Charisse Bates, but he goes through, like, his Rolodex in his mind of, like, everyone in the town, and he's never met her before, and he's like, I've never marked you before. He doesn't really recognize her, and there's something about her name that he can't mark her, so he's like, this is very odd, I need to know more about her. And then as he's looking at her, he notices that she has a lot of, like, scars on, like, her face and her, like, chest and stuff. Like, she looks like somebody, like, cut her up with a knife, but she's also very hot to him. So from that interaction, we go into a flashback scene of Charisse when she was in the asylum. And she is there talking to a little girl, which supposedly is her friend that she was talking about.
The little girl exists.
In her mind.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So she's in the asylum talking to this little girl. While she's talking to her, the guys that work at the asylum notice that she's awake. I don't even really want to go into detail because it was kind of excessive, but basically there is, like, a very long, like, essay scene where they, like, do a bunch of bad stuff to her.
Did you already say why she's in the asylum?
No, we don't know. We don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, so she kind of snaps out of this memory, and we find out that it's actually been a month since Charisse and Nick met. And so, like, that was just kind of a scene to propel us forward in time. And so Nick has been, like, following her around like a puppy dog, constantly asking her to go on dates with him. Like, please, I, like, need to have you. And she's like, I'm busy. I'm planning a lot of stuff right now, and I don't have time for you.
My agenda's full.
So later, we find Nick is following her around at night, and he sees her walking at, like, 11:30 p.m. And the town actually has a curfew. Like, you're not allowed past a certain time. So he's, like, kind of wondering what she's doing because she's kind of, like, creeping around in a neighborhood that she doesn't live in. And so he follows her and overhears her telling her little imaginary friend, the little girl, that she wants to kill the saint. Like, she's like, I have to kill these bad men, and then I gotta kill the saint. And then he overhears her and he's like, okay, the fuck did I do? Why does she want to kill me?
Why am I in here?
He's like, why am I on the list? He's like, what did I do? And he's, like, a little mad about it, but he's also kind of turned on. He's like, oh, she wants to kill me? He's like, that's sexy. Charisse breaks into the house in the neighborhood that she's, like, kind of coming upon, and we find out that it's Thomas Branson's house. So she's breaking into his house, and so Nick's like, well, I gotta see how this ends. Like, I gotta see. So he's just, like, watching in the bushes. So she keeps claiming that all these murders are, like, perfectly, expertly planned. But, like, as she's breaking into this Thomas guy's house, she, like, falls in through the window and, like, makes a huge crashing noise. And she's like, oh, man, I was gonna surprise him, but I guess not anymore. So then he, like, comes, like, in with a gun, and he's like, who the fuck is in my house? Like, come out, and she's, like, hiding. And then to distract him, she, again, plays Baby It's Cold Outside on her phone, and she kind of puts it in the hallway. So he's like, what the fuck is this music? Where's this coming from?
That's actually, like, kind of terrifying.
While he's got his back turned, he's, like, shooting at the closet and stuff. She takes her knife because she's really into this, like, serrated blade that she has, and she cuts his Achilles tendon. So he falls forward, and then she starts stamping on his back, like stamping, like, up and down, like stomping.
Oh, stomp.
Stamping? Stomping?
I was like, stamping with what? Like, was it a snowflake? Like,
the word is stop. Then she's like, well, I know how much you always love doing things with my ass, so I'm gonna give you something. So then she takes his gun and she shoots him up the ass, and then he dies. And she cuts his throat or something. But then she's like so riled up after this endeavor that she lays on the bed, because they're like in a bedroom, and she takes the knife that she just stabbed him a bunch with.
No.
She looks at the handle.
No.
And she's like, you know, she's been a little bit flattered by Nick's attentions recently, so she starts picturing him, and she starts, you know, going to town in her coochie with it. Nick
Just the handle.
was watching from outside to see what she was gonna do. And
Oh, he said that's hot.
so he comes inside, and he's like, he loves calling her Little Reaper. I looked up how many times it says Little Reaper in the book, and it's 63 times.
In 180 pages?
And 180 pages.
Too much.
I will say this book did not need to be 180 pages.
No.
I was suffering also because I had to read this on Kindle Unlimited. He comes in the doorway and she's like, you know, going, you know, she's about to have an orgasm, and she looks over and she sees his face, and that makes her, you know, come. And then she's like, are you really here, or am I imagining you? And he comes over and he's like, hello, my little Reaper. And then he starts like kissing her, and then she's like, wait, you're real? And he's like, yes. And then he's like, it's so hot that you just killed that guy. And so he turns off the light, and then she, you know, gives him a blowjob, you know, boring, just like, oh, his cock is so big, oh, his huge cock, oh. But she can't really see it because apparently it's a little demony, but he didn't want her to see it.
It's a little demony?
It has little lumps and bumps on it, he said. And she said it was like curved and the tip of it was like pointed.
I don't like that.
But she, you know, gives him a good old fashioned glug, glug, glug. And then she stands up and she's like, well, that was great. And she gives him a kiss and she goes, I'm actually very busy with my murder plan. I need you to stop following me.
So, as I said before, I'm really fucking busy.
We are now propelled another month forward. We're getting closer to Christmas. Nick has still been following her around, but she's been avoiding him. Like, she won't even talk to him. Everywhere she goes, he's like always like watching her. He's like obsessed. And his little like demon minions are like keep popping up being like, sire, what are you doing? Why are you so obsessed with this random girl? Should we kill her? And he's like, no.
Honestly, may this love find me. I want someone to be so obsessed with me that they forget their job, which is at like a biblical level.
So they're now at a club. He's followed her to a club, and he's like watching her, like he's like on a higher level, and he's watching her dance below. And
She's just there dancing by herself.
grinding up on a guy.
Oh.
And he's like,
Oh.
who the fuck is that? So he like storms down. Again, he loves shoving people. Get out of the way. I gotta go see my little Reaper. So he's like pushing through, and then he yanks her from the guy, and he's like, get away from her. So the guy leaves. She's like, you're always interrupting my important work. And
You're so silly.
Again, she's got a lollipop. Or I think he like puts a lollipop in her mouth. Like he brought one. Because he starts bringing candy with him wherever he goes, because he knows that if he brings her candy, she'll be like more interested to talk to him.
If he wanted to, he would.
He gets to her on the dance floor.
Okay.
And he's like, you have to stop dancing with this man. You have to dance with me instead.
Oh.
And they start bumping and grinding. And they don't care who's watching, because they start really getting into it. He puts a little lollipop in her mouth, and he's like, yeah. And they're like really dancing. And then she's like, touch me. And he's like, right now? And she's like, yes. And so then he's like, he's fully finger blessing her. He's fully going at it. Fully going on the dance floor, like really getting into it.
In front of everyone.
Yeah, in front of everyone. And then after she orgasms, he's like, taste yourself, little Reaper. Well, so then she also tells him like he should go get her a drink. And then while he's off getting her a drink, she like runs off to go to the guy. And
Classic.
so he sees her from across the bar, and he's like, what is my little Reaper up to? But he watches her walk into one of the back rooms where, you know, people go to have a little more fun at the club. And he sees the guy give her a drink, and she's very dumb, and she drinks the drink. Like, again, she keeps claiming to be like this, you know, really smart murderess, but like she keeps doing crazy dumb things. And so she takes the drink, and then she starts like wobbling because she's been roofied.
Uh-oh.
And so Nick's like, well, fuck, I gotta go sit there. So he goes to the back room, and he's like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? And the guy's like, hey, wait your turn. Like, I'm doing this first. And so then he turns into his full demon form, and the guy like pees himself, and he's like so scared. He's like, what? And he's like, you're gonna die. So
spoiler alert.
basically he starts by taking his claws and he rips the guy's dick off, and then he like cuts him like from like his chin down here, and then he takes his really long tongue, because you know his tongue can like stretch, his little forked tongue, and he sticks it down the guy's throat, and then he like rearranges the guy's insides with his tongue.
With his tongue?
Yeah.
That's a strong
He's like,
tongue.
And then
I'll never unsee that.
and so when she wakes up, she's in bed with him, and they're like cuddling, and she's like, oh, this guy, he's so obsessed with me. She knows that she was roofied, and she's like, okay, that was a mistake, I shouldn't take a drink. And then she's like, oh my god, what happened to the guy? And he's like, I killed him for you. And she's like, oh. And so then he brings her some candy canes, and she starts sucking on the candy canes.
Oh no.
And she has like this flash of memory, like all of a sudden she's like, they like bring her back to like her childhood.
Goes That's So Raven moment.
Yeah, literally. The peppermint flavor really takes her back. Then she like kind of snaps out of it. And he's still questioning her, and he's like, why do you want to kill the saint? And she's like, well, he killed my whole family. And he's like, are you sure about that?
I know what is that. I mean, he doesn't remember that.
And she's like, well, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. That's what I'm doing this Christmas Eve. That's my big plan, is I'm going to kill these bad men, and then I'm going to kill the saint. And all the people that have done bad things to me, gonna be dead. And then Charisse gets up, and she leaves again. And she tells him serious this time, like, leave me alone. I have business to attend to.
He don't listen.
Now, flash forward, we're 2 days before Christmas. Charisse is knocking on this random man's door, like in this random neighborhood. The man opens. We find out that this guy, Jeffrey, is a known child molester. So she is like, hey, mister, will you let me in? It's so cold outside. And the guy's like, okay. So he lets her in, and then he is like in the kitchen making her drink because he's clearly gonna try to roof her. And she's like, no, 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 I learned my lesson last night. So she comes up behind him, and she takes a wire, like a garrote, and she starts strangling him, and they have like a big tussle where he's like trying to get her off his back, and she's strangling him, and she pulls the wire so tight that his head falls off. She decides to decorate his house because that's part of her plan. Oh. It's because no one decorates for Christmas. So she's like, oh, the way that I can get the saint to come to me is I'm gonna put up a bunch of Christmas lights. I'm gonna really make this house like very like, come look at me vibes, because everybody else like battens down the hatches.
Batten down the hatches.
That's a saying, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. She says, candy canes are now my whole identity, and I can't stop thinking about them. I dyed the size of my hair that framed my face red and white streaks to emphasize my new infatuation. So she's got the little, I'm picturing like, you know, like the emo, like raccoon, like.
The raccoon
vibes. Yeah. Okay, then fast forward, we're now on Christmas Eve, and Nick and his minions are going forth and killing all the souls that they like previously marked. Remember, they were like doing all the
Nick
planning.
Is now busy.
Yeah, he's like, I'm the saint now. Like, it's time for me to do the saintly business.
Sorry, girl.
And also, he's on lookout to find his little reaper. He's like, I know she's out there. She wants to kill me. Let me go find her. So he sends all his little imps and his minions to go kill everybody. And he's like, well, while you guys do that, I'm gonna go find my girl. So then he comes in and he's like, Charisse, where are you? And then and then she jumps on his back, and she's like, ah! And she starts stabbing him with little candy canes. And he's like, a little bit of blood's coming out. And he's like, this is so cute.
Oh, she's adorable.
She's stabbing him. So then he snaps his fingers, because she'd like decorated the whole house in like Christmas lights. When he snaps his finger, they grab her arms and her legs, and they kind of string out in the middle of the room.
Oh, God.
You know the vibe. He uses his forked tongue on her bits. So apparently, the way that it's forked, he can put one part of it, like one side of it, in her coochie, and then the other one on her clit. Like, I guess it can really like separate ways on the fork.
The fork is very...
Yeah, the fork is very like, it stretches, you know? And so I tried very hard not to actually picture this. I didn't really...
No, 100%.
I didn't want to know about this. Yeah. Also, like, he used like the lights, like he snapped his fingers again, and she was like flipped upside down, and he was like, oh, you know, going to and then he starts putting candy canes in her coochie, because he's like, oh, I really want it to taste like peppermint.
Oh, and she's like, me too, honestly.
She's like, I love peppermint.
One thing about me, love peppermint.
And then he starts creeping up on the back door, and she starts freaking out, because that is an area in which the bad men kind of abused her a lot. As you know, men do in these books. He's like, no, 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 see, you have to let me, because I'll reclaim it for you. Your scars will be torn anew by my hand. Your ass will be claimed by my cock. He's like, yeah, all these scars and everything that like all the trauma you have, I'll do it too, but like better.
Yeah.
We'll reclaim it together.
No, you're actually gonna like, you'll like mine. Like,
he literally meant it when he said, I'm gonna like remake your scar. So he takes one of her scars like on her thigh, and he like scratches his finger through it, and it causes her to like go back into one of like her memories. And so we open to a memory when she was 17, and Will Ashcroft is dressed in a black robe, and he's kind of telling her like, you're gonna be a sacrifice. And then we kind of flash back out of that memory, and so like we're just getting a little hint at like what went down. Then we go into another earlier memory of Charisse's childhood, where her mom, her favorite Christmas song was Baby It's Cold Outside, which is why she has the obsession with that song. And so they're like singing it together, and they're dancing around. But then her dad comes in, and he gets really angry, and he starts yelling at them. And he's like, no singing, that's not for the Lord. The Lord does not believe in singing. And then the dad takes out a knife, and that's when we find out where she got the scar, like on her lip, because her dad actually cut her, and that's where she got it. Nick demands to know her father's name, because he obviously saw these memories as well. And he's like, I want to kill your dad, so you can tell me his name. Yeah. And she's like, I don't actually know my dad's name. And he really feels like the mood is kind of off. So he's like, you know, we can resume the sex stuff later. And she's like, no, let's get back to fucking. And he's like, okay. So they resume their fornicating. Why did I say it like that? They're fornicating.
They resume your fornicating. Okay.
And she goes on and on about how he's so huge and she just loves it so much. Right before she comes, he pulls out and he says, "We were having so much fun. You forgot about the candy cane lodged in your ass. I've been magically growing it in size. As soon as I put it in you, your other hole is ready for me now, baby." So he was like stretching her out.
Baby.
And she didn't notice. I did nearly throw up. And she passes out from her orgasm and he takes her home to rest. So then Nick decides to use her scars to unlock more memories because they want to get her real name. Because he's like, "I need to claim you, bitch." So he starts going into her memories. And so again,
like yesterday,
we go back into the memory of like when she was supposed to be a sacrifice on her 17th birthday. And her father and the guy Will are like bringing her to the altar and she's fighting back and she's screaming and she's like, "Where's my mom?" Then she runs into the house and she finds her mother dead on the floor. When Charisse comes to, she's like, "We have to go kill the Ashcrofts. We gotta go do it. We gotta go kill everybody who lives in that Ashcroft manor. Those losers in the cult, we gotta get rid of them." And then Nick's like, "I can't kill them because they're in this cult. They worship Lucifer and their souls are like marked by the devil." He's like, "I'll go with you though." So then he gives her back her special knife, but he like magically extends the handle and he makes it into the shape of a candy cane. And he's like, "We can find out uses for that later."
I literally was about to say he curved that shit on purpose. My God.
To prep her for the evening, he also gives her a new fit. And I need to read to you how it was described. "I run my hands over the wine-colored dress that hugs my upper body, the corset accentuating my curves. The skirt flares out into a high-low design that swirls around me as I move. I twirl in my black lace heels, my eyes wide." I do think she escaped from a My Chemical Romance video. I was like, what in the Hot Topic 2012 is this?
She's got like candy cane, like red and white raccoon clip-ins. What in the Hot Topic hell is this?
Literally.
No. The high-low dress is like wild.
So they go to the Ashcroft estate. So they go in and Will's actually already waiting there for them. And then as Nick steps in, he gets locked in this little like prison because there's a sigil on the floor and it traps demons. And Will's like, "You actually perfectly played into my hand."
God damn it. The Nepo baby wins again.
So then we find out that Will is actually her uncle. He's like, "My plan has always been to trap the saint. You led him here." She gets really mad and so she kills Will. They like fight and then she like stabs him. After Will is dead, her dad walks in and then she turns and she sees her dad and she realizes the man that she thought the saint, like in her memory, is her dad with the mustache and the dark hair. Yeah. Plot twist. And we find out that her dad is Lionel Ashcroft. Why can I not say Ashcroft? Her dad is Lionel Ashcroft. She tries to fight her dad, but he overpowers her, and then she's like laying on the ground, like passed out, and he like bends down, he's about to cut her throat. Basically, Nick is like, tell me your name, I can claim you, and like I can save you. And right as her dad like is starting to cut her throat, she opens her eyes, and she's like, Sable. And so now, from now on, I will refer to Charisse as Sable, because that's her real name, and she's in hell. And she's looking around, and she's like, where am I? And then the little girl shows up, and she's like, hey, you're here, and like starts talking to her. Yeah, exactly. And she's like, yeah, like I had this whole plan. The Ashcrofts were always my favorite family. I like loved all the souls they would bring me because they always would sacrifice the most innocent people, and those souls were like so delicious. And then as she's talking, she transforms into her dad. And so we realize that the little girl, her imaginary friend this whole time, is not a little girl. And then she's like, wait, are you Satan? And then we find out that her imaginary friend this whole time
was
Satan.
A real one.
And he used to visit her all the time in the asylum. And so he's like, I want you to be
in the form of a little girl,
a perfect warrior for me. And I think you and the saint are like so cute together. You gotta go back and be with him.
You guys are so cute together.
She's like, ship you guys. And I think he's like, I think you guys are gonna do a lot of good work for me.
Yeah.
So she takes his gift and he turns her into a reaper, and then he sends her back to Earth. And so she like,
does she get like a cool like outfit upgrade or anything?
Yeah, another like weird emo outfit. But her scythe, guess what it looks like?
Fucking candy.
So she shows up
where Satan really loves Christmas.
Apparently.
Honestly.
Apparently. And then she takes her scythe and she just fucks everyone up. She just kills everybody in the room. And then after she kills her dad, they get real turned on. And he's like, oh my god, it's amazing. You're a reaper. This is beautiful. Like, we'll be together forever. We're gonna live forever.
We can fuck
and
real
so
now.
then they have sex again. It was kind of boring. Just normal, whatever. Like, she's riding him, whatever. At this point, we were on page like 160 and I was like, how is there still 20 more pages of this? I was like, how is there more of this? They go rescue her mother from the asylum and she introduces Nick to her. And when Sable's mom introduced her to herself, her name is Charisse. So the reason that Sable called herself Charisse is because that's her mom's name and her mind was all confused. So she like loved her mom, so she called herself her mom's name. Which I think is a little odd because they were having sex a lot and Nick was like, Charisse.
Uh-oh, it's my mother-in-law.
And then Nick is like, let me mark you, Charisse, and like I can protect you. So he gives her little demon seal so they can like be a happy family.
Yeah.
And they live happily ever after. And that's the end. And now she's like a Reaper that will live forever and she gets to be with her demon boyfriend. That's it. That's my book.
Honestly, I was really into it.
Yeah, you honestly were more intrigued than you ever have.
No,
You were like, and then what happened? He had candy for her?
I actually was like, I was like, wait, where was her mom? Like, how did she get out of the asylum? Mine is called Slaying the Holidays. Sophie is a therapist, and she is in her office, and there's a dead body on the floor.
Oh.
Yeah, and she's just standing there watching this really hot, very tall, blonde, Nordic, Scandinavian, whatever guy. I think they said that he was Norwegian, and I know before anyone comes for me, Alexander Skarsgård is Swedish, but
That's who you're picturing.
yeah, obviously 6'4", like be so fucking for real right now. So Alexander Skarsgård, who is named Soren, is on the ground like trying to revive this guy, whatever. He's very golden retriever apparently, which was confusing in this whole book because I was like, oh, he's so cute, and then he would do something unhinged and I'm like, stop it. He looks up with bright blue eyes and says, oh, I'm your 10 o'clock, but I'm happy to go earlier if this guy's done.
Wait, that's actually kind of funny.
So the therapist, Sophie, notices that Soren is staring blankly at the corpse. And then all of a sudden when they like call his attention again, he like snaps back into it. And he's like, yeah, hey, no. Like he goes back to it. Sophie does family therapy now, like divorces, you know, like domestic kind of things. Anyway, but she used to study psychopaths and serial killers.
Okay.
So she's very in tune to like how they behave, how they act. So she's just noticing and she's like, no, snap out of it, Sophie. Like you're overanalyzing this because you're bored, whatever. Okay, so they start the session with Soren and he's apparently a divorcee, newly divorced with 2 twin children. Keep this in mind for the rest of the day. Obviously 2 twin children. He's saying that he's just depressed because the kids are always with their mother and he's like, I don't have anything to do. She was like, you should take up a hobby. And Soren's like, you know, I did have a hobby that I really enjoyed and I wanted to get back into it. And she's like, oh, what is it? And he goes, photography. And then she's like, oh, photography is a great hobby. You should get into that. That would be amazing. And he's like, okay. So you really think I should get back into photography? And she's like, yes, I really think it would help your mental health. He was like, ding, ding, ding. She said I should get back into photography. They are flirting a lot during this therapy session. So she literally makes like a mental note. She was just like, I have to stop flirting with him. Obviously he's really hot, whatever. I have to stop flirting with this really tall Nordic man because this is not professional. I'm gonna open the dating apps when I get home. And I was just like, girl, first of all, don't do it. Because they're not worth it. So she gives herself homework after this session, after Soren leaves, everything's figured out with the paramedics, whatever. She gives herself homework to download the dating app. So she swiped and went on a date with a guy purely because he looked like Soren. So it's a terrible date. Apparently she is sneaking food into her pockets while this man, he like is rude. He's not tolerant of like the waiters and waitresses. He smells bad, but apparently he's just really hot. And I was like, girl, we've got to all draw the line somewhere. So she goes to the bathroom and decides that she's gonna ditch her date, but she's gonna be nice and she's gonna tell him first. He's already gone out to like warm up the car because obviously it's Christmas time, it's winter, blah, blah, blah. She goes to the car and it's all foggy inside and she was like, hello, can you unlock it? Are you okay? Like I need to talk to you. And then she finally opens it and he's like he's just like slumped over the steering wheel and she goes to push him and he moves over and she just sees a slit across his throat and his eyes like roll back. He dead. She looks around and she just sees Soren's 6'4" body like this, and then it's like
he's hiding the back
in the floorboard like all scrunched up, and he looks up and sees her and just goes, oh, and like unslumps himself and just gets on the seat and like it's just kind of like, I didn't think you'd see me. And it's like, you're 6'4" dude in the back of a sedan, like in the floor. She obviously freaks out. She's like, what are you doing here? Why is this guy dead? Soren grabs her and pulls her into the back seat. She was going to ditch without telling the guy bye. Like at first I was like, oh, she's just being a nice person, whatever. But really, she had a really expensive umbrella in the car that was like handcrafted from Italy that she bought. Like, I think it was Italy. She went somewhere in Europe. It had like a flamingo handle. So she has it in her hand when Soren grabs her and she uses it. She hits him in the crotch. So it literally talks about him wheezing and being like, in like a wheezing voice, no, wait, come back. Like, like he can't talk. And one thing I'll say about this book, the banter was fun. I found myself giggling a little bit, like I'm laughing. So they're running out into the woods, into the snow. He obviously is huge and
chasing her.
Yes, and like catches up to her. So then he tells her, here's the loophole. He tells her, your date was actually a really bad guy. I didn't know you were gonna be here. He pulls the dead guy to the back seat because all of a sudden, they're in the back seat, the dead guy's still in the front seat. Cops start knocking on the window because they're just in the middle of a dark parking lot. This part is fucked up. Soren freaks out and pulls the dead guy into the back seat and makes it look like they were about to all have a threesome. So he's put the dead guy in between them. He, I guess, is like really trying to sell it that he's nervous and he wants the cops to believe him. So he goes, it's Christmas. I was trying to give my wife something fun. She said she always wanted a threesome. So like, I don't know, you know, maybe I would like it too. And he's like, should I try it, honey? And like, kisses the dead guy. The cops apparently were like very homophobic because they were like, whoa, man, I don't, anyways, good luck. Like, they were like, a man's kissing a man, oh my God. Like, they were freaked out. And the cops finally get nervous enough and like walk away.
Yeah, but you would think they'd get arrested for like public indecency.
You would think they would. Like, but like, I guess that's what I'm saying. They were so grossed out with like everybody kissing back there. And
they were like, all right, we gotta go.
Yeah. He takes her to a Christmas tree farm so they can go talk in the dark and says she should marry him to protect them both legally. And then she would get what she wants. And she was just like, I don't understand what you mean, get what you want. But then she was like, oh my God, he could tell that I'm obsessed with him because my date looked just like him. Then Soren says, yeah, you can record it. She goes, why would I record you fucking me? And then he goes, I thought you just wanted to interview a serial killer because you like psychopaths. I looked you up. They wind up buying 2 Christmas trees. She is just like, I'm gonna think about the marrying thing. But I think the gist that they tried to get by is that it would be like legal protection to where like they can't call her to the stand to like talk against him or something.
I think that's true.
So then Soren takes Sophie to his lodge, which of course is huge and fancy, and they sign marriage certificates. Always like, if he was like an ugly, poor serial killer, like this book wouldn't work.
No, it would not.
It wouldn't work. It's like the 50 Shades of Grey theory. He finally decides after a couple of days, he was like, you know, I really need to kill someone. That's actually my hobby now. So
you told me to get into the topic.
So yes, so they go to a mall where they dress up as Santa and an elf. We find out that he's there to kill a pedophile who works at a kiosk in the mall. In his Santa suit, he grabs Sophie and starts dragging her down a hall to follow this guy who just got off work, who's been staring at children the whole time.
Oh.
They go and he gets a fire axe off of the wall and just chops the shit out of this guy. He does it while he's dressed as Santa.
So the red will blend in with the suit.
100% sure. Exactly. Over the next week, Sophie winds up going with him to a lot of different murders.
Oh, he be working.
He be working. And she finally is just like, you know what? I'll make the most of it. I'm literally just going to sit here and study how a psychopath works.
I'm working late because I'm a killer.
Then Sophie realizes that Soren is killing the bad guys too much because he skipped a call with his kids to go kill someone. So tonight, while breaking into another house, she offers to suck his dick to distract him. And she was like, it's a therapeutic technique. It's fine. Literally, she's like, okay, obviously this hobby is like doing too much for him. I did this. She blames herself. She's like, I made him do this. I'm an idiot because I heard photography and I didn't think murder. I wrote a note in the moment that was like, oh my God, he's uncircumcised and she has to ask what to do with the skin.
That's scary.
So then That's scary. So then which honestly, I think it's a valid question.
You know, my first boyfriend wasn't circumcised. Do you know how many UTIs I got?
And they finish and they decide to leave without killing. But Sophie freaks out after they get out of the house. Her brain comes back and is like, actually, I should probably try to run away. I should get away from him. She tries to run, but Soren catches her and then rubs her clit until she finishes in the front yard of this person in the snow. But then he won't put anything inside of her.
Why?
Because he's decided that he's drawing the line at penetrative sex.
What? But
Because
why?
then it's gonna get too serious. This
But they're
marriage
married.
This marriage is still a fake legal thing to him.
Oh, does he? But
Yeah, I know. Her aunt calls. Just so you know, your whole family knows that you're married and they're coming to stay with you for the holidays. I think her assistant, she had called to take off work at the office. She was like, I eloped. And her assistant was like, we were calling. And it was like everything. And apparently her assistant has a big mouth.
I'm pretty sure that's against the law.
He tells her that she'll need to stay in his room when her family gets there. This is while he's eating her out. This man he's like, I'm taking care of business and also taking care of business. They start cleaning up the house. Soren apparently is very excited to have a full house with family. He's a little, at this point, I'm like, this man is a little delulu. Like, I'm like, you have a whole wife and 2 children, but you're really excited about a new family in the house. So then he randomly says, hey, I love you.
Oh.
Sophie figures out that Soren now wants to kill again, just to get a little bit of jitters out before her family comes. But Sophie goes, hey, just use me instead, please. Let's not kill anybody.
Oh, use my body.
Yeah, use this body. Don't take that
So
body.
has he also admitted that sex stuff deters him? It's probably like, por qué no los dos?
Yeah.
He's like, let's fuck and kill.
Kill the man, kill the pussy. Her family arrives and knocks on the door. Her whole ass family. It's like an aunt, a mom, a dad, an uncle, a brother,
That's so
a wife,
rude.
some kids. Sophie goes out in the garage and is like, my whole entire fucking family is here. What did you do with all the bodies? Where are all the people that you've killed?
Oh, they've been collecting the bodies.
Yes. This motherfucker, he chops them up, puts them in boxes, and wraps them like presents.
They're under the tree.
Yes, yes.
How would smell?
So, it would smell, for sure.
And the blood leak out the box.
And then he's just like, it's okay, I got pine scented air spray. And he's like, spray. And I was like,
Oh my god.
so she's getting drunk at the table. All of a sudden her family is like, how did you guys meet? How did you propose? Blah, blah, blah. And they kept whispering about oh, she's probably pregnant. Because that's the only reason anyone would elope randomly, to get married.
Why would she be drunk at dinner if she's pregnant?
That's what I'm saying. Her family's stupid. You have to cut that shit out. Anyways, they're like, oh, she's probably pregnant. And she was just like, no, we haven't even fucked yet. He has to cover her mouth again and swap her to water because he's just like, we are trying to pass a ruse that we are married. Why would you say that? He goes to randomly kill a guy. And after he struggles to kill him, he gets in a little fight. He finally kills him with a string of Christmas lights.
Oh.
Yeah, yours were used for sexual things. Ours were used for murder.
Okay.
He strangles him, but the guy had punched him, so he's like, great, I'm gonna have a black eye in front of our family. How do I explain this? Then, after the guy is dead on the floor beside him, he decides to jack off by thinking about Sophie.
Just leave your DNA everywhere.
Just leave your DNA. Literally, I was like,
They don't
y'all.
care about the police at all in this.
No. So they have breakfast with the family, whatever, but tensions are getting high. He says that he loves her in front of the family, whatever. So they go back and they decide to just bang one out. So then he says, while he's fucking her, you're such a good therapist. This will do wonders for my mental health. And he also says, after he finishes, oh no, I've just come in my therapist.
Ew.
But she finally says that she loves him in front of his family. And she says it in front of her family. And she says it directly to him. Because at first she starts off being like, we got married because I love him. And he makes me feel adventurous. And I never felt adventurous.
I love you.
Yeah, she's like, you make me feel adventurous. And I love you. And he's like,
You know, the adventure of killing people.
yeah, no, literally, the adventure of killing people. So then they go to bed. Soren wakes up really sad about missing his kids on Christmas Eve. I'm like, it took you this long to miss your kids?
He hasn't called them in weeks.
Literally, he's like, it's Christmas Eve. I kind of miss my kids. Sophie, he wakes up and he's kind of walking into the kitchen. Sophie's not there in bed. He's like, she must already be awake. He walks into the kitchen and sees a note that just says, I had to leave.
What?
he panics and realizes that he loves her enough to give up killing. After he spends a couple hours just moping around, being sad, not talking to her family that Sophie just left behind in the house.
He's like ignoring them. They are literally twiddling their thumbs in the
They
air.
are.
I'm like,
They're like, why did we even come here? Well, you fucking invited yourself, guys. He finally decides to like FaceTime her. She is in a closet. Yeah, I'm not leaving you. I had to leave because I was getting you someone to kill. And he was like, no, I'll give up killing for you. I promise. If you stay with me forever, I will give up killing. It's not even important. She was like, no, it's what makes you you, Soren. Don't give that up for me. Worst therapist. But then she goes, bye, I really fucked up. Because this guy's really bad. And he's like chasing me around the house. So he knows that I'm in this closet. So I'm gonna hang up real quick and text you the address. And I need you to come kill him like now. She fucked up. He gets there and sees the front door open. And he sees there's like snow like messed up around the front of the house. And he's like, oh shit, he's chasing her. So he grabs the guy and like beats the shit out of him, just starts like beating him to a pulp, and then randomly has a wire, which is so funny because you said that G word earlier.
garage.
I had to look that up because it was in this book. And
Yeah.
that's the one good thing I'm gonna tell you about Kindle. You highlight a word, I'll be like, I know what that word means. And so he kills him and then just pushes him off of an overhang, like a cliff. And I was like,
They don't give a fuck about DNA in this.
you're truly going to go to jail.
Her skin is probably under his nail.
No, truly. I was so you're both going to jail, but I'm glad you're happy. Her mom calls and is like, Sophie, so glad you're okay. We didn't know where he went. And then we saw Soren like run out. Where did you guys go? Oh, we came to like pick up some stuff. We're on the way back. And she goes, okay. Well, we decided to open some presents.
Oh.
Soren goes, don't worry, I have some drugs at home. I'll drug them all and they'll never remember that it happened. And we'll go out and get real presents and rewrap them. The end.
What drugs could he like?
What drugs? I was like, is this fucking Men in Black?
He's in a flash.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you made it to the end, then feel free to use a knife emoji in your comments down below in honor of all of Soren's killing.
Or a
Also,
Christmas tree.
if you're interested in seeing more of Katie, because I know that when she comes on, everybody in the comments is like, when is Katie coming back? I have some other romance videos with her. You can find them in my romance playlist. And I thank you all so much for watching. You're all beautiful. Have a nice day.
And like happy holidays, I guess.